Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will have a look at this liquid cooler coming from Deepcool known as the LT720. In the past I've done another version which is the LS720. If you are curious to know, click on the top right hand corner and it will take you to that video. Before I begin with this LT720, I'd like to thank Deepcool to have provided this unit for me to share with you. Let's begin. These are the items found in this package itself and they are all protected with Ziploc bags. As you can see, I've taken them all out. Starting from the left itself, in the accessory package you are provided with a instruction manual. Followed by this section, this is meant for Intel, where you have the back plate where you place this at the back of your motherboard, followed by the mounting brackets for your AIO pump, and these are the spacer. The top 4 spacer is meant for your generation 9, 10 and 11, followed by this 4 which is meant for generation 12 and 13, and these are the old processor which is the 2000 series. At this section here is the AMD, where you have the AMD bracket for your AIO block, followed by the thread ripple standoffs, and this over here, the 4, is meant for AM5 and AM4. Over at this section here, you have 4 thumb nut, whereby you secure the block onto the standoffs, and you can just screw it tight to hold your AIO block. And 4 flat screws over here for you to mount the brackets, be it the Intel or the AMD, to your AIO block. You have a total of 12 long fan radiator screws in this packet and 12 short screws which is meant for your radiator to be mounted in your case. Along with it, you come with this 3 fan splitter where you have 3 fans daisy chain, which is this 3, to 1 connector which is connected to your motherboard CPU fan header, and it comes with 3 fans which is the FC120 and at a rating of 0.22 ampere, and their RPM, the lowest is 5000, the highest is 2250 RPM, and of course the radiator and the AIO block. The only ARGB effects in this LT720 is only on the AIO block, whereby you can detach this block. When it illumines, as you can see, all the ARGB LEDs are inside. When it illumines in this block itself, right, it will shine off from this window over here, the ones that has a mirror finish, and it will glow all the checkered box inside this block. And Deepcool have listened to all the viewers or PC builders. They have simplified all the connection. The block itself having this ARGB connector, you can connect this to your motherboard to control the ARGB effects, and on the pump itself you have this 3-pin fan header which runs the pump in full speed. You can control the speed as in like the RPM using DC mode in your UEFI of your motherboard, but I wouldn't advise you to do so. Please let it run at full speed. Reason being, right, okay, even if you want to control the speed itself, make it as 90% or 80% in DC mode, but not 60 and below. Reason being, right, if you give it irregular rotation of the pump itself, right, you might just damage the pump. Now, having to say this, right, this block itself, you can only orientate when you place back to the block over here in one direction. Take a look at this arch over here. It follows the arch over here. So there's only one direction you can clip it back. You can't say like rotate it. See, you can't. It will not fit. It only fits in one direction. So take note of the orientation when you place this block in your IHS, or should I say to the motherboard processor. Now, another thing is that the fans itself, they have taken off the unique connectors which has 7 pin. Instead, they make use of this 4 PWM which you can daisy chain using this cable which is the splitter 3 to 1. So you connect all the fans together with this and to connect this end to your motherboard. Now, the unit itself, there are nice braided holes, and there are 2 hose tubing, or should I say the tube holders. Nice touch. So when you position when you have fixed your AIO on your IHS itself, you can adjust this to have a fixed position. Now, mounting on the fans to the radiator. This is how the fins look like, and it's 28mm in thickness, and together with the fan, right, total is 53mm. Mounting the fans itself is pretty straightforward, but do take note, if you were to mount to the radiator, right, do not place the cable hitting the fans in front of you. See, you can't mount. Make sure that it's out. Be it whether you are pulling or exhausting, make sure the cables are facing towards the side of the radiator. Then of course, using the radiator screws, which is the long screw, screw it in. Now, one thing I like about the design of the fans itself, right, it leaves no gap because it's all square. It leaves no gaps for any air pockets that the pressure of the air that is pushing through the radiator, or sucking the air, right, there are no air pockets. So this will give 100% air pressure to the radiator itself. Since I do not have a Intel platform to illustrate how I mount this AIO, I'll briefly go through. First thing, I'll mount this bracket, and thanks to Deepcool, they have listened to us, whereby they have done all the plate black instead of silver, which I've done in my previous LS720. This is in silver, but for this AIO itself, the LT720 are all in black, inclusive the AMD brackets. Now, to mount this bracket itself, right, take a look at the bracket. You have this holes over here. Now, these are countersunk holes. If you can see, when you mount it, make sure the countersunk is facing you when you're mounting the bracket to the AIO. Reason being, right, if you don't do this, take a look at the screws here, it goes flush. So make sure it's facing you. If you were to turn it and to screw it, it will leave the screw protruding out. See? And this might, when you mount, if you place it this way, right, as in like this way, and this is protruding out, you might just scratch your motherboard. Maybe not, but the correct way is make sure the countersunk hole is facing you. And when you screw it, right, this is something which I find. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to mention that this AIO has a pre-paste, so you don't have to worry about the paste. If you don't want to, you just wipe it and put your own thermal paste. Now, as mentioned, right, something which I find out, this is pretty cool. Due to the reason is this block is magnetic. I mean, the AIO pump is magnetic, so that you can catch this ARGB block back to the AIO pump. And with this said, right, the magnet did help a lot when you're mounting this. Kudos to Deepcool who have thought of this. Okay, see, it's in place. I don't even need to hold it. See, it doesn't drop. And best part, when you place the screw, you just go in place. See, it doesn't go anywhere. Very nice. I mean, this is a nice thought, so that you can take your time. Okay, screw the bracket into the AIO. So it is this simple to do it. Now, speaking about the Intel platform itself, as I mentioned earlier, there are three kinds of platform. If you are using the old 2000 series, you do not need this mounting bracket, which is placed at the back of the motherboard. All is needed is just to place this spacer, or the screw spacer, directly to the motherboard itself. Then you'll be able to place your AIO to it, and to fasten it with this thumb nuts, which I'm going to show you right now. Having this backplate itself for generation 9, 10 and 11, these are the original position. If you are using generation 12 and 13, you will have to push this out, because the holes are wider, or should I say apart from the generation 9, 10 and 11. So assuming that this is generation 12 and 11, sorry, generation 12 and 13, I will have to make use of this spacer, which say 1700. So these are meant for 12 and generation 13 Intel processor, and as for this, right, are meant for generation 9, 10 and 11. Now I repeat that again, if you want to mount generation 9, 10 and 11, make sure this is set to the inner slot. Else for gen 12 and 13, push it out. So assuming I'm mounting a Gen 12 and 13 processor. So these are the spacer that you need. And all you need is just to place it here. Of course, this will be behind your motherboard through your motherboard screw holes. Okay, then place the spacer to hold it to the motherboard. Once this is done right, you will be able to mount your block, the AIO block, to your IHS on your motherboard. And once this is in place, right, okay, having even pressure, screw on with all these thumb nuts. So this is for the Intel, and when you are screwing the thumb nut itself, right, never leave the pressure at the center. Always hold on it, and always do it diagonally. Okay, screw this. This is how you mount the Intel platform. To mount the AMD brackets in this AIO itself is similar to Intel. Just make sure that the AMD brackets, the countersunk holes, are facing you and not the other side. So when you screw in the screws itself, right, it flushes. I've deliberately removed off the pre-applied thermal paste, and I'll be using this special thermal pad, which is this, for the processor to test air coolers and liquid cooler. Reason to use this thermal pad because I've done a previous version of the Deepcool, which is the LS720, using the same system, processor, and the RAMs itself. I want to compare that cooler against this LT720, which is the latest, on the performance and the temperature itself. So that's the reason why I'm using this thermal pad. Now back to where I was. Once you have done with the mounting on the AMD brackets, time to prepare your motherboard. Now I've taken off 4 screws and to remove this original brackets, which you can see over here. Once this is done, right, next thing you need to take note, if you are using a Threadripper platform, you'll be using this standoffs, where the shorter end will be to your motherboard and the longer end protruding to you. Now since this is a AM5 platform itself, it makes use of the same standoff as the AM4. This is meant for AM4 and AM5. So with the plastic facing downwards to protect your motherboard, and with this protruding upwards. So you can start screwing this to your motherboard. As you notice, I'm doing it diagonally so that to have an even pressure with the back plate, so that when you mount your AIO, right, it will not be uneven. So once this is done, right, next thing to do is to use alcohol, and which I've already done wiping. Use some wipes, alcohol, and to wipe the IHS. Once you've done that, right, if your AIO is with the pre-applied paste, you can straight away mount straight on the IHS. But if you choose to use your own thermal paste, like what I'm doing right now, I'm using my own thermal pad, not paste, I will still apply some alcohol and to clean it. Once this is done, right, okay, assuming you have done your thermal paste, this is this direction. Next thing to do is to mount your AIO. Once this is in place, hold on to the center using the thumb nut that is provided. Fasten the all sides, and when you're fastening, right, do not do it this way or this way, do it diagonally. Okay, this is done. Again, this is to ensure even pressure. Normally how I do it is I'll flip this until it stops, then I'll use my thumb and index finger to screw it till you feel that there's tension to it, you can't screw any further, diagonally. Then make use of the screwdriver to tighten it further. Once this is done, right, make sure you clip the pump to the CPU pump, which is down here. Then you can place this back, your AIO ARGB block, and from this end plug it to your ARGB connector, which is down here. So once this is done, right, also not forgetting, make sure that your fan are all daisy chain. Okay, I'm not going to plug it right now, just to show you. All daisy chain, and with the other end, this end over here, plug it to your CPU fan one, which is here. So make sure all these are connected before you turn on the system. Just to show you the ARGB effects itself. Now, do note that there are no ARGB on the fans itself, which is good. Reason being, right, the main focus on attraction is in fact the block itself. If you were to overpower with all the ARGBs around it, right, this is definitely not going to shine. So with this say, right, I do like this kind of approach whereby you have everything dark, but to show the actual contrast of what this ARGB effect on the block can show. And as mentioned to you, right, these are the infinity mirror that protrudes out the rectangular shape and the square shape, plus the Deepcool logo. This gives a very mature and elegant look, and it's actually to my liking. I often like to see this kind of stuff rather than all ARGBs, which is overclouding. So very nice touch. Now to show you the results of what this AIO can do. The results are out. This was the previous liquid cooler that I've tested on Deepcool itself. This is the LS720, as you can see over here. Now, why am I pulling this footage is because I want to show you the results of this AIO. Take note on this, the system spec that I've used in this LS720, which is the old AIO cooler, is making use of a Ryzen 9 7950X, and the RAMs are DDR5 from G-Skill Trident Z5 Neo 32GB kit, and of course I'm running at default. I've not touched the PBO2 and such. This will allow the system, or should I say the processor, to calculate how much cooling is needed in order to sustain the clock and to pull the wattage from the power supply. And the only thing that I've done with the system itself, right, is to run my DDR5 at Expo profile, which is running 6000 clock speed. Now, if you do look at the stats over here, this is the old LS720. The clock itself is sustaining at 4.85 to 4.86 gigahertz, and the power drawn, right, as calculated from the processor, which is 179 to 180, and the power drawn from the PSU itself is 183 to 187. That's the max to sustain the temperature, the clock, which is 4.85, 4.86. Now, if I were to switch over to the current test, which is the LT720, now have a look at this. Okay, I deliberately run a 30 minutes run just to see how much this cooler can produce as in like cooling to the processor itself. So as I run, right, okay, this is the 20 over minutes. I'll run the last 3 minutes to show you. Okay, this is the last 3 minutes. Now take a look at the clock speed itself. It's hovering at 4.98 and sometimes 5, but consistently it's actually at 4.9 gigahertz or 4.99 gigahertz. The power drawn is fantastic. It's like PPT is going beyond 200, which you can see drawing from the PSU itself, right, 213 watts. So with this consistency itself, right, it does tells me that this LT720 is a much more better liquid AIO as compared to the LS720. The impression of this LT720 liquid cooler, there are more good points compared to bad points. First of all, as compared to the previous version, which is the LS720, both have the same build, be it the radiator, the braided hose, their tubes over here is the same. The structure is about the same. Now, good point about this LT720 are the mounting brackets, be it Intel or AMD, they are all black. Because when I touch it, right, yes, you do see prints, but it's not so prominent as compared to the previous version, which is silver in color. My goodness, when I pressed on it, leaving all the fingerprints, right, I can see the fingerprints, which is like so disgusting. I don't like that. But this is all black, which is not prominent. But having to say so, right, please clean the fingerprints off. Even these are black. Reason being, right, over time there will be white mold on the brackets, so clean that finger oil off from the brackets before you mount the AIO. Next thing will be the connection point. As I've shown you in the previous video on the LS720, the mounting connection point of the fans and the AIO, it's somehow kind of like complicated, but Deepcool have listened to us. They have provided this version, the LT720, with all the standard connection, like the fans, the radiator fans with 4-pin PWM connectors, and to make use of this splitter, 3-way splitter to 1, where this will be connecting directly to your motherboard, which is very simple. Everyone can do it. Same goes to the ARGB effects, whereby you give you a standard ARGB 5V 3-pin, you just plug it to your motherboard and that's it. Same goes to your pump, where you connect your pump header to your motherboard. Speaking about the ARGB itself, right, now something which I really love about this ARGB, whereby it does shines. Reason being, right, there are no ARGB fans or any ARGB surrounding it, so this has become a main character, main attraction, whereby it shows the infinity mirror of the triangle and the square itself, and also the outshine the logo, which is very nice touch. It gives a elegant look and mature look. Now on the ARGB itself, right, I'd like to talk about the fans back again. Now for the FK120 used in this AIO as compared to the FC120 AIO, FC120 fans on the LS720 AIO, both fans have the same characteristics. They ramp up at a low RPM at 500, the highest is 2150 RPM, both are the same, and the blades are the same, structure is the same. The only difference is there are no ARGB in this fans itself, whereas for that there is. And for the noise, right, both are the same. Speaking about the ARGB itself, this LT720 in fact comes to the result it wins or beat its brother, which is the LS720. Reason being, these fans here are not ARGB. I have a theory on this. For the FC120, right, as you can see when I show you the results, it's hovering at 4.8 GHz. Else for this, it's hovering 4.9 GHz. Why is this so? As I've shown in some of my videos saying that ARGB does generate heat, which is true. So all the heats that is generating, like the light bulb on the motor itself, right, it will dissipate to the radiator itself. So the radiator is absorbing the heat not only from the AIO but from the fan, and this causes slight performance drop from the previous version, which is the LS720. As you can see, it's hovering at 4.8. Else for this, you don't have ARGB, and it performs even better, which is 4.9. Excellent. Next thing bad about this is the orientation of the AIO. Make sure you do it properly, because the housing of this ARGB block, I should say, the effect on this window here, you can only mount one direction. You can't change direction. It doesn't sit, see? It only sits in one direction. So this is one thing that probably they might need to reconsider about the design. But overall, this is just a minor flaw. I still like this ARGB anyway. Alright guys, hope you guys have actually enjoyed this, and I'd like to thank Deepcool to provide me this LT720 for me to share with you guys with my experience. And to those of you who are actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.